Welcome everyone. Thanks for listening in with us today. I'm Erica Villarreal Ecuerzo, founder of CivicAIM, a philanthropy advocacy practice working with individuals, families, and teams within organizations aiming to strengthen their governance, grant making, and impact. I'm thrilled to be here today for this episode of Redefining Philanthropy in Practice and Profession. I launched this new CivicAIM series that features leaders who are at the forefront of centering equity in philanthropy. In each episode, you will meet some of the most courageous, resourceful practitioners of color, leaders who go beyond a business as usual mindset and show us what philanthropy can be if it's structured to drive justice across communities and generations. My hope is that Redefining Philanthropy and this series is a forum that sparks ideas and inspires action, moving us all closer to a philanthropy that is truly equitable. Today, I'm honored to have my colleague and someone I highly respect, Julian Huerta, joining me in conversation. Julian and I have worked together for over a decade, having met when I first started my career in philanthropy as a program officer at a local family foundation. And Julian was a leader at a Central Texas nonprofit provider of affordable housing. Fast forward to today, Julian is the Vice President of Community Programs at St. David's Foundation, one of the largest health foundations in the United States, funding over $80 million annually in a 5-county area surrounding Austin, Texas. Julian develops, implements, and supports the foundation's portfolio of direct service programs, including a mobile dental program and a scholarships program for students pursuing career in health professions, two of the largest examples of such initiatives in the country. Prior, Julian served as Deputy Executive Director at Foundation Communities. While there, he led the development and implementation of health, education, and financial stability programs for more than 40,000 families. So as you can see, Julian is an incredible leader in our community, but also bringing his expertise in community development. And now he brings that lens to his role in philanthropy and direct programming. And we'll hear more about that. Julian, welcome. I'm so happy that you joined us today.
No, it's great to be here. Thank you for the invitation, Erica.
Absolutely. Well, so we'll go ahead and get started, right? So as you know, this series not only talks about redefining philanthropy, but we also kind of look at not only the philanthropic role that we play, but also kind of start from ourself and how we bring our whole self into this work, starting with our experiences, right? So tell us, how did you first get involved in community development and housing? And what was your why?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think for me, it goes back to just kind of my upbringing. You know, I grew up in San Antonio. You know, I had a family who was, you know, pretty involved in the community. I mean, we were involved with a church. You know, my parents did things at the schools that we attended. You know, just kind of developed a sense of place and belonging in a community, in a neighborhood. And I think that's something that has remained a big part of me. You know, I grew up in San Antonio, and so also developed an awareness of just the ways that different things sort of play out in communities, so that, you know, that sometimes lift people up, sometimes hold people back, right? And, you know, San Antonio is a city where, I mean, it's been a city for over 300 years, but and for most of that time, it's been a majority Latino community. But it's really only in my lifetime that Latinos have gotten any sort of political power in the city. And so I growing up, I got to watch that, learn from that. And I think that definitely influenced me some and kind of my career choice. So, you know, early on, I knew I wanted to do kind of community service kind of work. And again, I mean, something that my parents really inspired, and not just me, but in my brother and sister too. And so, you know, I've been really fortunate to have the opportunity to work in in the field of housing and community development for so many years. That's been such a privilege. I mean, housing is so important to people's well-being in so many different ways. And I got to be a part of an organization doing great work. So, here in Austin, Foundation Communities does, develops, manages affordable housing, provides some great supportive services. And so, it's just been a great place to be able to do this work. And, early on, I realized that, housing is such a great platform for delivering other kinds of services. So, with residents who live in the communities there, providing opportunities for education and financial stability and improving health outcomes. All of those things, are really can really be provided well within a housing context. And so it's just been a great thing to be a part of.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see where your career in service, right, started at home based on what you saw modeled and practiced and continued along that. And also what really strikes me is, your focus on affordable housing and how that too is the center of all other aspects of life, and that kind of wraparound and the implications it has on education, financial sustainability, and also kind of civic awareness and connectivity. So tell me, after all of those years in community development, and you still continue to be leaning in that way, you recently transitioned to a philanthropy role at St. David's Foundation. So what led you to make this switch? And perhaps you can also share a little bit more for our listeners about St. David's Foundation's focus and its programs, as you are not only a grant maker, but also service provider.
Yeah, well, I think for many years, I had this sense that, I might want to try to do something where I got to work on, challenges at a community level, not just sort of, focused on, these many affordable housing communities, but our larger community. And I saw working in philanthropy, particularly with a foundation like St. David's Foundation, as a great opportunity to do that. I mean, St. David's, like other big foundations, has so many levers that can be used to affect change and improve conditions for people. I mean, obviously it's not just the grant making, although that's huge, but just the ability to kind of convene people and to focus attention on challenges. Those are great tools too. And so, I was very fortunate to have the opportunity to come and work here at the foundation. It's certainly a big decision for me to leave a place where I had been for 23 years and was really happy and felt really fortunate to be there. But, I was excited about taking on a new challenge, and getting to learn new stuff again, and that's an opportunity that I've had here at the foundation. So that's really been great. St. David's Foundation is kind of unique in a couple of ways. One, we're a foundation, but we have an active partnership with St. David's Healthcare. So, we get to reinvest proceeds from the hospital system back into the community. And we do that with a particular focus on health equity. So really trying to address sort of those inequities in our system that our goal there is that, somebody's ethnic background or their zip code should not be a very good predictor of their health outcomes, which unfortunately is not the case right now, right? And so trying to advance that work around health equity. The foundation is also kind of unique in that, in addition to doing grant making, we also run these direct service programs. I mean, you mentioned the mobile dental program, which is the largest in the country, serving kids at Title I schools. We also have the Neocasoric Scholarship Program for high school seniors who want to pursue careers in healthcare. And so, doing both grant making, programs, playing this convener role. There's just so much good that the foundation can do, and I just feel so lucky to get to be a part of that.
Absolutely. I must admit, I know when the announcement came out of your role there, I was really excited. I was really excited to bring a community leader to help, really create those community solutions, given, again, your long-standing relationships, trust, and bring that kind of to the other side, right? And because I think that there's a lot that philanthropy can learn from that. And, there's this big push that's going on now with respect to equity and lifting community voices. And before a foundation like St. David's Foundation, who does have, large influence across Central Texas, to bring a community leader that has worked, shoulder to shoulder with other community leaders, I think was a smart choice. And so I'm really excited for, to see what's to come as your tenure continues. So, you had mentioned switching from working at as a service provider within a nonprofit, and there's like this scarcity mindset. And then there's this opportunity, as you mentioned, to be strategic, thoughtful, kind of help plan. How do you bring that forth to your work as in philanthropy and direct services? Like, what, if you can share a little bit, some of that kind of mind shift of what you learned, or some impressions as you've moved into your new role?
As I said, it's been an adjustment for me, and one thing I noticed after a little while was, I think in my prior role, doing direct service work in the community, with a nonprofit, a really strong, great nonprofit, but one that, like all nonprofits, is pretty dependent on external funding, and is always challenged to be able to have enough resources to do good work. You do develop kind of this kind of scarcity mindset, this sense that there's never enough, and you've always got to adjust your expectations, your planning, the work you want to do to these limited resources. And I think I think the impact of that can be really limiting in how creatively we can think, how much innovation we can bring to the work that we're doing. And in this role, I really have a chance to kind of step out of that, because while nobody has limitless resources, of course, there are just some really great resources here. And so to be able to think not so much about, what can we afford to do with our very limited sort of bucket of resources, but rather, what are the ways that we could really affect the best change or be most impactful? That it's a great luxury, I know, to be in that position, but it is something that I think even in a, working in a nonprofit situation, I think it's really valuable to be able to set aside sort of that scarcity kind of mindset as we think about how to address solutions. And it's something that, I continue to try to talk to my colleagues about, who still work in direct service, about just kind of that mind shift and how we can, bring more innovation and creativity by practicing that. Again, I know it's tough, and I'm very fortunate to be where I am to be able to do that. But I do think there's some value there in sort of recognizing the impact of that scarcity mindset and kind of the toll it can take on kind of creativity and innovation.
That's exactly right. No, and I'm sure, both the direct service colleagues as well as your philanthropic colleagues can, really take on this discussion and kind of create an action plan of how can we redefine, our ecosystem, our partnership, our relationship that we have. And that's what I'm really excited about. So I also want to talk about, again, as yourself as a practitioner of color coming into the space of philanthropy that is evolving, right? And what do you see as some of the biggest opportunities and challenges in this field?
Hard not to notice that, in philanthropy, we as a field, at least as far as, what I've experienced, we're not as representative of the communities that we serve, right? And I mean, and to be honest, I mean, this is a challenge even within the nonprofit world too. I mean, I was, I attended lots of meetings in my prior role, representing an organization where, we were talking about issues that really were impacting, communities of color in really big ways, but the people who were in those conversations weren't very representative of those communities. And, and so notice that in that situation. And I mean, that's true for philanthropy in many ways too. So, I think we do have a responsibility to figure out how to incorporate more of those voices, because I do think, we make better decisions when we have more diversity of thought, diversity of experience, those things. So I think that's a really important aspect we need to raise in the work that we do. And hopefully, I can play a role in helping us sort of do some of that, because I'm, coming from this community serving sort of role in my prior position. So that's my hope anyway, that I can help us do a little bit better there.
Absolutely. And I think that you're right, that community serving just in a different role, right? We are kind of coming at it at different angles. And even though those angles may be unique, they still bring assets. And so, so what advice do you have for others, particularly practitioners of color interested in pursuing a career in philanthropy?
I think, I would encourage, colleagues to, recognize that they have something really important to offer, first off. I mean, I think that perspective of having worked in community and having, direct experience with the people who, for whom we're trying to, or with whom we're trying to affect change, that's really valuable, particularly to philanthropic organizations like mine. And so, I say lean into that. I mean, recognize that this is a real strength, promote that as you consider different opportunities, because there definitely is value there. I think, as I first started to imagine, maybe have an opportunity to make kind of this career switch and come and work in philanthropy. I mean, I perceived that, maybe I need to, advance some skills in some ways that maybe I'm not using so much in the work that I was doing before. And so, did take opportunities to, work on developing analytical skills or improving the writing skills, those things. Because, I mean, those things are valued in the world of philanthropy. And so I think opportunities to do that is important. You should take advantage of any opportunities like that. But again, the most value you can bring is in that perspective and that experience, and always lean into that. Wow. I think it's great to find mentors. I mean, I think Austin is blessed with some really great people who put themselves out there and offer to play that role, and I've benefited from that. I try to do that myself now that I'm sort of here at the foundation. But there's definitely value in having that kind of mentorship, and so I'd encourage folks to look for those kind of opportunities.
So yeah, so as you know, reimagining philanthropy is the theme of this series. And Julian, my question to you is, why is reimagining philanthropy critical at this time? What will this require on all practitioners in the field?
Yeah, it requires, trying to bring, new voices and perspectives into the conversation. It requires, helping to build trust. I mean, that's something that, has some particular meanings, I think, for philanthropy. I mean, we have the opportunity to demonstrate trust in communities, in grantees, in partners, and I think trust is such an important thing right now for us as a society, as a larger community, that I think it's really important that in philanthropy we make that a priority. I do think you gotta give trust to get trust, and we have a real opportunity to be leaders in that way. And so, I really hope that we can step up to that. At the same time, it's still pretty fresh for me, having left sort of, a nonprofit community-based organization and now being in philanthropy, that, I often think about just kind of the challenges of, just kind of running an organization in our current environment. So many nonprofits are under-resourced, and they're really struggling to pay their people kind of what they're worth, and what staff need to be able to to survive in the community and make a decent living. And so I think we do have to, in philanthropy, sort of recognize that we have an opportunity to help make that better, recognize that the operating costs of organizations are going up. If we expect organizations to do good work, we have to be willing to support that, and especially around these challenges of being able to keep good staff, and because that's so critical to doing good work. I mean, I remember when I was at my prior organization, Foundation Communities, I had a conversation with a younger colleague who I respect a great deal. And he was telling me that he loved doing the work. He loves being in the organization. But then he asked me, like, but how am I ever going to buy a house and be able to support a family? And I mean, it was a great point, and I really didn't have a good answer for him. It's a real challenge, and one that I think we have to keep in mind, that we need organizations working on these big problems, but that definitely takes resources, and especially around capacity, organizational capacity. So
no. Well, you are not alone. I know that there are, as you mentioned, other colleagues and practitioners that are thinking about kind of the wider aspects of equity and building capacity to really create impact, right? And that impact is a partnership between the philanthropic sector and the nonprofit providers, and understanding that there is a healthy relationship, but also that takes resources to kind of create a stable, a stable platform and workforce for our nonprofit providers to be able to continue to serve growing needs. And so I'm really excited that not only that you will bring that to your role, that you will continue to raise those in discussions of decision making and investment, as well as help keep philanthropy accountable, right? In the sense of what is all that we can do? We can, there is still more, as you mentioned, room to improve and to do better. And that can look different for different foundations as well as different communities, because every community is different. And so I really appreciate, again, Julian, the time that you've shared. Is there any closing note that you would like to discuss with regard to philanthropy, or redefining philanthropy, the theme, or any wisdom that you would like to share with respect to our audience who's listening?
I mean, I always love to, try to focus on the positive. And, while we have these enormous challenges, no doubt, we also have some great solutions. I mean, many of the challenges that we face, we actually know how to solve or how to address. I mean, thinking specifically about homelessness, we have great models, and, permanent supportive housing and other things that we know can work. It's just about getting the resources to the right places, getting the right people in the room. We can solve these things. I know that it's easy to sometimes get discouraged or become jaded, it's so important to fight through that and stay focused on positives and solutions, and to trust, the people who do the work, the communities who live the realities every day. I mean, they have so many answers, and there's so much that we in philanthropy can learn from them, and working together to solve our community's challenges. So, in the end, I mean, I remain positive and hopeful that we can continue to make, our community a better place, and that philanthropy can play an important role there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Julian, for joining me and sharing your expertise and personal wisdom with our audience, with, again, those that are looking at philanthropy and ways that they can enact change, either personally in their role today or tomorrow. My hope, as I shared, is that Redefining Philanthropy, this series, is a forum that sparks ideas and inspires action, moving us all closer to a philanthropy that is truly equitable. Today, Julian, you've given us an opportunity to see the person behind the practice and also the pathways forward for all practitioners. And I want to thank you, Julian, again, and thank everybody for being a part of Redefining Philanthropy. Thank you.
All right, thank you.